They tell you New York City was built on ambition, but that's not the full truth. New York City was built on hunger, on risk, on men and women who stood at the edge of the unknown and said, "I will not turn back." Before the skyscrapers cut the sky, before the bridges stitched land to land, before the name New York ever meant power, money, or dreams, this place was a wild, breathing frontier where survival decided everything. And in the next few minutes, you're about to feel how an island of forests, rivers, blood, trade, fire, and resilience became the beating heart of the modern world. Welcome to Storyflow. This is not just history. This is motion. This is pressure. This is the sound of footsteps on wooden docks, the echo of cannons across water, the scream of steam engines, the roar of crowds, and the quiet determination of millions who arrived with nothing and refused to leave unnoticed. This is the entire history of New York City, told not as dates and facts, but as a living force that never learned how to stop. Long before Wall Street meant money, before Broadway meant lights, before Manhattan meant power, the land belonged to the Lenape Native American tribes. They moved with the seasons, understood the rivers like veins in a body, and lived on Mannahatta, an island thick with trees, fresh water, and wildlife. Deer ran freely where taxis would one day scream. Fish filled the rivers so densely that later European settlers would swear the water itself was alive. The Lenape didn't build empires here. They lived in balance. And balance, history would prove, never survives contact with ambition. In 1609, a ship cut through the water like a blade. Henry Hudson, sailing under the Dutch flag, wasn't looking for New York. He was looking for a shortcut to Asia. What he found instead was a river wide, deep, and promising, a highway into the continent itself. That river would later bear his name, and with it came traders, settlers, and a new idea: profit. The Dutch didn't conquer with armies at first. They negotiated, traded, exchanged beads and goods, and in 1626 they claimed to have purchased Manhattan for what legend later reduced to $24 worth of trinkets. But land doesn't understand ownership the way humans pretend it does, and that misunderstanding planted the first quiet seed of conflict beneath the soil. New Amsterdam rose not as a grand vision, but as a trading post. Muddy streets, wooden buildings, the smell of salt, fur, sweat, and fear. It was a city born practical, not poetic. Merchants ruled, not kings. The Dutch West India Company cared less about culture and more about control. And yet, even then, diversity took root. Jews fleeing persecution, Africans brought in chains, Europeans chasing opportunity, all collided in this small, tense settlement. From the beginning, New York was never one story. It was many stories arguing at once. Then the English arrived, and they didn't ask politely. In 1664, British warships sailed into the harbor, and New Amsterdam surrendered without firing a shot. Just like that, the city changed hands and changed names. New York, named for the Duke of York, became a pawn in imperial games far larger than its streets. But power shifted slowly on the ground. The people stayed, the hunger stayed, the friction stayed. By the 1700s, New York was growing restless. Taverns buzzed with arguments about taxes, loyalty, and freedom. When the American Revolution ignited, the city became a battlefield, a prize both sides needed. British troops occupied it for years. Fires tore through neighborhoods. Spies moved in shadows. Ordinary citizens learned how thin the line was between survival and betrayal. When the war finally ended, New York didn't just celebrate independence, it exhaled, and then it rebuilt. The 19th century hit New York like an engine thrown into overdrive. The Erie Canal opened in 1825, slicing through the state and connecting the Atlantic to the American interior. Suddenly, New York wasn't just a city, it was a gateway. Goods flowed in, money poured through, People arrived in waves that never seemed to end. Irish fleeing famine, Germans escaping unrest. Later, Italians, Jews from Eastern Europe, Chinese laborers, each carrying hope like a fragile package they refused to drop. The streets swelled, tenements rose fast and cheap, families packed into dark rooms with no air, no light, no guarantees. Disease spread, fires consumed entire blocks, gangs fought over territory because territory meant survival. And above it all, the city kept growing, upward and outward, as if speed itself were a moral duty. Then came the Civil War, and New York showed its fractures. The draft riots of 1863 exploded in rage, fear, and racism. Buildings burned, black citizens were hunted. The city nearly tore itself apart from the inside. It was a reminder that progress always carries a shadow, and New York's shadow was long. But if destruction shaped New York, reinvention defined it. Steel replaced wood, elevators changed gravity's rules. The Brooklyn Bridge stretched across the East River like a declaration of confidence, a message that said this city would no longer be limited by water or fear. Skyscrapers followed, each one taller, bolder, louder than the last. The skyline became a competition, and ambition was the only entry requirement. Ellis Island opened in 1992, and with it came the most human tide the city had ever seen. 12 million immigrants passed through its halls. Some arrived sick, some arrived terrified, some arrived with dreams so large they barely fit inside their bodies. New York didn't welcome them gently. It tested them. It broke some. It transformed others. But it never stopped absorbing. The early 20th century roared. Jazz spilled out of Harlem. Broadway burned bright with light and illusion. Wall Street pulsed with money that felt endless. The city moved fast, talked loud, and believed deeply in tomorrow. And then, in 1929, tomorrow collapsed. The stock market crashed, fortunes vanished overnight. Breadlines stretched across sidewalks once polished with confidence. But even in the Great Depression, New York refused to disappear. It endured by adapting, by grinding forward, by believing that motion itself was survival. World War II turned New York into an arsenal of industry and information. Ships left its harbors, soldiers passed through its streets. The city became a nerve center of a world on fire. And when the war ended, New York emerged as something new, a global capital. The United Nations planted its flag here. Culture, finance, media, and power converged. But the city would be tested again. The 1970s nearly broke it. Crime surged, buildings decayed, the city flirted with bankruptcy. Headlines called it finished, a lost cause. But New York has never listened to funerals written too early. Artists moved into abandoned spaces. Music exploded from the Bronx. Hip-hop rose not as entertainment, but as survival turned into sound. The city rewired itself again. Then came September 11th, 2001. A clear morning, a blue sky, and a wound so deep it reshaped the world. Towers fell, lives vanished, the skyline changed forever. But what followed was something history will never erase: resilience. Ordinary people became extraordinary. The city stood, shaken but unbroken, and proved once more that New York is not its buildings, it is its people. Today, New York is louder, denser, more complicated than ever. It argues with itself daily, it stumbles, it reinvents, it absorbs pain and converts it into momentum. From Lenape trails to digital highways, from wooden docks to glass towers, New York City remains a living contradiction, brutal and beautiful, exhausting and electrifying, unforgiving and endlessly magnetic. And the truth is, New York was never finished. It is still being built, second by second, by every person who steps onto its streets and decides to stay. This is Story Flow, and this is only the beginning.